Hey, welcome this morning. I would like to have our youngest Red Dorian greet you. Can you say hey, Zeke? Hey, yeah. So, say hi. Yeah. So anyways, hey, we welcome you here in this moment. Yeah, I know you don't want to lick that though. So hey, if you are on the live stream, welcome. If you're here in this space, welcome. We're excited to be with you. Man, we have some stuff this morning for you that is so rich, so good. I'm just excited. And I just hope that you come in this space right now anticipating what the Lord is going to do in your life, where he's going to meet you, how he's going to meet you, how he's going to take some loaves and some fishes and break them before you and offer you something that you desperately need to eat. Spiritual food for the hungry, spiritual drink for the thirsty. So if you'd stand, let's worship together.
face. You have new mercies for me every day. Your love never fails. You stay the same through the ages. Your love never changes. There may be pain in the night, but joy comes in the morning. And when the oceans rage, I don't have to be afraid, because I know that you love me. Your love never fails. Your love never fails. When it's strong and the water's deep, I'm not alone here in these open seas. Your love never fails. No. Chasm is far too wide. I never thought I'd reach the other side. Your love never fails. You stay the same through the ages. Your love never changes. There may be pain in the night, but joy comes in the morning. Oceans rage, I don't have to be afraid, because I know that you love me. Your love never fails. Your love never fails. You make all things work together for my good. You make all things work together for my good. You make all things work together for my good. You make all things work together for my good. You make all things work together for my good. You make all things work together for my good. You make all things work together for my good. You make all things work praise we could ever bring. Worthy of every breath we could ever be. We live for you. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Oh, worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Oh, we live for you. Holy, holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder and show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. Jesus, Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Hey, worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Oh, we live for you. Holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder and show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. Thank you, God, for who you are and for who that makes us. You are steadfast and trustworthy. Your promises never fail. Your love never fails. It's always the same, no matter what we do or what we believe. And when the brokenness of this world warps the truth in our own heads and our hearts, we come back to you, to your word, and to what's true. Your word says there is no fear in love. That perfect love casts out fear. Your perfect love is our home. I pray our roots would grow deeply within your love. When we put our trust in you and abide in your love, we're no longer bound by fear or by brokenness. We walk as a new creation in you. Sing, I will build my life. And I will build my life upon your love. It is a firm foundation. I will put my trust in you alone, and I will not be shaken, and I will build my life upon your love. It is a firm foundation, and I will put my trust in you alone, and I will not be shaken. I will build my life upon your love. surround me with a song of deliverance from my enemies, till all my fears are gone, and I'm no longer a slave to fear. No, I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. From my mother's womb, you have chosen me. Love has called my name, and I've been born again into your family. Your blood flows through my veins. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. Let's sing that again. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I am surrounded. I am surrounded by the arms of a Father. I am surrounded by songs of deliverance. We've been liberated from our bondage. We're the sons and the daughters. Let us sing our freedom.
I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. Yes, I am a child of God. Oh, I am a child of God.
Keep saying that.
I am a child of God.
Keep going.
Yes, I am a child of God.
One more time.
I am a child of God.
Come on. Come on.
You split the sea. You split the sea so I could walk right through it. My fears are drowned in perfect love. You rescued me so I can stand and sing. I am a child of God. You split the sea. You split the sea so I could walk right through it. Truth is not found in perfect love. You rescued me so I could stand and sing. I am a child of God. I am a child of God. I am a child of God.
Come on. Come on. Come on. Hey, listen. Sometimes you sing things, we've said this, because you believe them, and sometimes you just keep singing them until you do. Until you go, wait a second, that's not just a theological point. That's not a doctrine. You understand that? That you're a child of God is a relationship. And man, I got to be honest. For all the talk that evangelicals give at times of like, oh, we're not Catholic, we have relationship with God. I'm like, tell me about that. Because what it really is like, do we? Because I think until we embrace this idea that you are sons of God, you are daughters of the King, until you step into that, I don't think we have a clue what relationship with God looks like. Because he goes, you want to know me? I'm your father, and I made you in my image. Man, I just came up here earlier holding little baby Zeke, and I was like, just, man, that's good. Sometimes you just got to hold a baby. Like, it's just good. And I know his parents well. If you were wondering, what is he doing with his child? Love them, Greg and Marky. Man, you want to know what Zeke did to earn their love? Nothing. He poops in a diaper. He creates more work for the mom. He causes the parents to lose sleep at night. He causes them to pour out their energy and all that they have. So what did he do to cause them to love him? Nothing. And there is nothing you could ever do to make your Father in heaven love you more this morning. You need to know that. Some of you need to come in and know that. And any relationship you have with him is not built upon your performance. It had nothing to do with how you lived this past week, where he decides, do I want to be with you in this moment right now or not? Do I care about you right now? Well, it depends on what you did last week. No, that's not what he's saying. He goes, you're my son, you're my daughter, and I made you in my image, and you have my eyes, and you have my hands, and you have my feet, and you need to know your worth and value to me. So why does he love you? Because you're his. Because you're his. That's it. And so just know that. Man, like a child held in arms, that's what it means to be in a relationship with a good dad. And I'll say this. If you're like, I don't even like thinking of God as a dad. My dad was horrible. But you longed for one. And whatever that longing was, it's him. And you need to know that that's what a dad meets, and that's what he is. And I just want you to know that's what gives us the ability to stand before this. So Father, we come before you not as slaves trying to earn your favor, but as the song says, with the sea split so we can walk out of slavery and straight into sonship, straight into daughterhood, to be yours. You rescued us because we were your sons and daughters. And I just pray that we would live into that, believe that, and receive that this morning. That we are your kids. And that we would live that way. And we would just say together collectively to you, our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come. Your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And so give us today our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we also have forgiven our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. Amen and amen and amen. Guys, listen. There was once a man named Clive Staples Lewis who said, next to the Blessed Sacrament itself, the most holy object presented to you is your neighbor. Would you please turn around, see the person next to you, greet them, high five, fist bump. Kids 2nd through 5th grade, you can head back through there into the loft where your small group is, and we will see you all back here in a few minutes.
Good morning, Red Door. Hey, good morning to those of you guys joining us on the live stream as well. If we haven't met, I'm Jenna Laver. I am our operations director here.
Hi, Jenna.
Hi.
I'm Jeff. I'm one of the elders here. Sweet. Well, hey, come on, get in, guys. If you are here with us in the building, there is a hello card that is in your chair. If you guys are joining us online, there should be a little QR code right there on your screen that you guys can scan. We just welcome you to fill out this. Right outside of these doors is our welcome center. You can give them this card, and they have a sweet little gift that they want to give to you.
What? We're giving gifts?
Yeah. I'm going to give it away. I've heard there's a sweet coffee mug in there. So
That's
give
nice.
that to them
That's a nice
and grab one of those gifts. And then if you're like, hey, I've already filled out one
Let's
of those.
make a deal. Would be a good thing for a gift.
Oh, like you win a car?
Maybe
Like
you could choose, like you could have a thing up there. You could choose door number 1, 2, or 3 or something.
That could be fun.
That'd be kinda
Maybe
cool.
next week we'll
we
make
could
that
put it
happen.
in a game. That's so good.
Hey, if you guys are like, I've already filled out a hello card, what's a great next step if I can't win a car? You could come to dinner tonight for our
Banter.
welcome
This is called
dinner.
banter, back and forth. Sorry.
And you could get to know some of our staff, some of our elder team, ask questions in a way that you can't usually have banter this way on a Sunday morning, but we can tonight. So 5:30 to 7 here in this building, we'll have dinner provided, we'll have free childcare, so come, say hello, get to know some other people. And then if you guys have been at Red Door for any amount of time, you know that we have a little saying that love gives.
There you go.
Love gives.
Good.
Yeah. And so if you're like, hey, I'm curious, how do they handle giving around here? We have these envelopes, and I know I'll catch some flack for this, but if you're old school and you like to give with cash or a check, you can use one of these envelopes right outside of both of these doors is our Love Gives boxes. You can drop something in those and put them in the boxes, or you can go online, or we have Venmo as well. And then lastly, just want to let you guys know, this afternoon, right after this service, if you guys signed up to come help us make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches,
Peanut butter jelly.
peanut butter jelly time.
At least they didn't make us bounce around.
I know, we
like
didn't
Keith
have to do the
Kane did
song
last night.
this
They don't
week,
have
so
that
that's
song
great.
ready, do they? If they started that song, I'd be in trouble.
But we're making
you.
200
Good.
sandwiches right after service at 1 o'clock today. And so if you signed up for that already, come. We are excited to give those to our daily bread
fun.
later today. So all you. Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Jenna. Yeah, my name is Jeff, and again, if you don't know me, I'm usually a first service guy, and I taught school for 35 years at Fairfield. I started when I was 12, and so, and I coach basketball. One thing I've noticed quickly, this happens to me a lot, is first service is a little bit shorter than the second service. I noticed that as a basketball coach. There's a lot of tall guys here, and so, reproduce children and send them to Fairfield and have them play basketball. All right, that's what I make sure you do. So, like I said, yeah, sorry, I was not talking about you, Mark, but I did not bring that up. So usually they'll occasionally let me teach if this is your first time here. Don't judge completely on what we're doing. They just come back if you want to. It'll be good the next time. And so the last time I spoke, I may have cussed actually, and they let me come back. So that is not a disqualifier to speak at Red Door. It was the word for a donkey. So what cuss word? I mean, it's kind of, I don't know if we say cuss, So I forget it. I don't know. Rhymes with bass. Okay, you got it. All right. So usually I've led Young Life for a bunch of years. Used to, like I said, teaching freshmen that are non-judgmental. I taught math, so those people really love to hear me talking that way. And then they don't usually give me smart kids either. So, I didn't. Sorry, Marky. Marky's here, right? Sorry, Marky. Sorry, anybody else in the room? Sorry. I'm just joking. Obviously, I got smart kids. I had Marky. She's smart. I had Darcy. She's my smartest kid one that I ever had. She's here today. So she's also marrying my son. So she's going to marry my son. So she obviously is smart. So yeah. Yes. I used to like to, as a club talk, Young Life leader, you want to start off with the story. So a lot of times, as a Young Life leader, we didn't really care to do sometimes stupid things that were embarrassing because you knew someday it was going to be a club talk. And so you didn't mind, you could use that someday, and even though it may be embarrassing. So occasionally I get to do that still because they'll let me speak here. And I had something, I retired, but I get to go back to school and I help with the testing. And so in the fall, I was going back to help with the PSAT and some of the EOC stuff to help organize testing. And while I was in there, I get to know some of the kids, and I'll see some of the people that are going through the office areas. And sometimes I know some of our athletes still, so I'm still connected to athletics. And I was at Chipotle one of those days I was in the office, and there was a young man that was being interviewed at the front there, in one of the front tables by a manager. And so when I walked through, I know the young man because his mom is the secretary for our principal. And so I know Charlie. And so I was going through, Charlie finishes up the interview with the manager, and he steps outside, and then the manager walks behind a counter, and I'm like, hey, if you can hire that kid right there, I'm a school teacher, just retired. If you can hire that kid right there, you hire him. He is phenomenal, the best we have. Man, if you can just grab him, hire him. So thinking I did my good deed for the day, go to school. Next couple of days, I see his mom in the office, and I think I'm trying to make her feel better about her son, because you like to know when other adults think your son's a really special kid. So, and so then I told her, I said, hey, Chrissy, I just saw Charlie interviewing the other day at Chipotle, and I told the manager how good he was, and she goes, Charlie was interviewing at Chipotle? I was like, oh, yeah. She said, he wouldn't be interviewing at Chipotle. If he's working, he's going to be working with his dad at the shop. And I was like, ooh. So now I stepped in it. Somehow I stepped in it. So I could have been like maybe Charlie interviewed at Chipotle and didn't tell his mom, and he's going to try to pull this off to where he's going to work without telling the parents because he doesn't want to work in the shop, but he's going to work. I mean, there's a lot of things in my head that's happening. Or it wasn't Charlie, It's somebody completely different. So I walk it back. Well, I thought it was him, but maybe not. Maybe it was somebody else. I'm trying to get out of it a little bit. And so then a day later, I'm out in the area, in the hallway, and I see Charlie. And I was like, hey, Charlie, did you interview at Chipotle? Because if you did, I just told your mom about it, and she doesn't know. So you better start a story right now, buddy. I mean, it's, you're going to be in trouble. I didn't mean to squeal on you there, but it's out there, He goes, I didn't interview at Chipotle. I was like, oh, you sure? Because I thought you did. He said, no, I didn't interview at Chipotle. And so then, literally 2 months later, I'm at a basketball game against Fairfield and Middletown. I'm watching the game, and a kid walks in behind me with another student, and I turn around and look at him, and I go, do you work at Chipotle? And he goes, yes, I do. I'm like, I got you that job. You're working there because of me. And so here's the picture. Here's what I'm showing you. I am not an old man stupid. But look, they're twins, right? I mean, isn't it? It's obvious. So Charlie's on the left, and this is Lucas. Luke Hensley is on the right, So Luke is the one that got the job at Chipotle, And so, it's not just because I know what some of you guys are thinking. Hey, you think all you redheaded guys look alike? That's what they always say. I'm a redhead, so I can say, well, I used to be a redhead, but that's what we can say. But there is a definite similarity there, Yeah, they're not. Yeah. So then, I was able to kind of figure that out, and then what I realized actually was I really thought I knew Charlie. I didn't know Luke at all. But I really thought I knew Charlie because I had seen Charlie in the hallways. I'd seen him in the office at his mom's desk. I talked to Young Life leaders about Charlie because he went to Young Life. And sometimes I'll ask them, hey, who's involved? I want to know. And they'll talk about different kids that are doing things. And so I'd known Charlie. He's an athlete. He's a cross-country runner. So I in the athletics, I'd known some things, about what he does. But I didn't know Charlie. I knew him from afar. I knew him from a distance, But if you asked me a lot of stuff about him, I didn't know him. In fact, I couldn't really pick him out of a lineup probably. I didn't know Charlie. And so as we're entering into this mark and the whole series we're talking about is those distortions that we have when we see and hear from things and talk about who God is and who Jesus is in our life. And we have these distortions built in. And I realize that's kind of similar to what we can have at times with who we view God is. We know God from afar sometimes. We hear about who God is. We hear about who Jesus is and what his life was. And sometimes we might even tell others about him, what we know about him and what we think we understand about him. But how well do we know him? How well is he close? And if he's not, then just like that situation with Charlie and Luke, that could be so distorted that I didn't even recognize him. I didn't even know who he was when I compared him to someone else. So I really want to go through Mark 6. If you've been with us for a while, we're still hanging out in Mark. And Mark 6 is this amazing account of Jesus feeding the 5,000, feeding the multitude. And it's a really cool story. It's actually, I think I may have read where it's the only miracle that's mentioned 4 different times, all 4 Gospels. And if you I count the resurrection as a miracle, so I think that's mentioned in all 4 Gospels. So I'm not saying it's the only, but it's mentioned in all 4 Gospels. So it must be a very important thing that God wants us to understand, and why we want to understand that. So I want to get into that, and then through that, I'd like to see some of the distortions that we have around Jesus' heart and how he serves and how we should serve. So let me pray to start with, and we will kind of get into it. God, I am so thankful that you give us your word. You give us ways that we can understand more clearly who you are. Even when we recognize maybe some of the distortions that we could have, and maybe try to identify some of the reasons behind those, that you'll, using your spirit, will open up the ideas to us to really reveal yourself truly who you are, so that in our relationship with you, we know you clearly, and that you'll remove those things from us. Thanks, God. In your name, amen. All right. So we are going to look at Mark 6. We're going to start in verse 30. And let me read this quick. The apostles gathered around Jesus and reported to him all they had done and taught. Then because so many people were coming and going that they did not even have chance to eat, he said to them, "Come with me by yourselves to a quiet place and get some rest." So a lot of times, if you remember what we talked about with Mark, it's an interesting way that it flows through, the way Mark wrote it, is that he goes back to back with accounts, like boom, this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened. And if you read right before this in Mark 6, the right before this is the beheading of John the Baptist, and right before that is when he sends out the disciples 2 by 2, doing ministry, seeing amazing things happen. You know, it's spiritual battle stuff. It's things going on that they've probably not ever witnessed before, and definitely didn't have a hand in the effect of it. I mean, there were some amazing things happening that they were involved with. And now they come back, and they're talking to Jesus about them. They're talking to one another about them, and they're having these discussions. And if you've ever come back from a mission trip or a Young Life camp or a church camp and stuff, and you're having this conversation with someone else who either was there or want to hear about it, you're having this encouragement. It's like, gosh, this happened. And it's not just that I got to do that. Most conversations are like, this is what God is doing, that I got to be a part of. And I'm sure they were having those conversations, very excited. But if you're like me, shortly thereafter, you are exhausted. I mean, it is tiring. And this is what's happening to the disciples. I mean, they hit a point where just exhausted. And they hadn't even eaten yet. They're back, they're doing things, and they haven't even had a chance to eat. So I think that's how the scripture really makes us understand into insights. It's like, I'm a chosen influenced. I've watched Chosen, and so now it influences every time I read the gospel, when you have these persons. I think Mark Teiderman is Peter. If you can, the Peter of that, if you're saying, think about it, and you'll say, yes, he is, isn't he? You know what I mean? So, like, so when I read the Gospels, I really try to think about what are the disciples going through? What are some of the things they are experiencing? And so they're tired, and one of the ways you can see is that they didn't have a chance to eat. I mean, what more can you say to understand how busy they've been that you didn't have a chance to eat? So Jesus has a plan. Hey, let's go away. Let's rest. Let's get to more of a quiet place where we can actually rest. So we'll keep going. So they went away by themselves in a boat to a solitary place, but many who saw them leaving recognized them and ran on foot from all the towns and got there ahead of them. When Jesus landed and saw a large crowd, he had compassion on them because they were like sheep without a shepherd. So he began to teach them many things. A little bit more. Going to the next one. By this time, it was late in the day, so his disciples came to him. This is a remote place, they said, and it's already late. Send the people away so they can go to the villages, surrounding countrysides and villages, and buy themselves something to eat. So this is what happens typically in Jesus' life. It wasn't a plan. It wasn't something that was just, he wanted to get away with his disciples to a remote area and just to rest. And then it changes. Somehow people find out. Somebody, dropped something and said, hey, we're going to go over there for a while. And they told everybody else, and it spreads. Before social media, people still talked, and it got out there to people, and they found out. And either they knew where he was going to go, or he always goes to this place in a remote area. And so when the boat's coming up to that shore, which is a place of solitude that they were going to enjoy, it's no longer a place of solitude. Tons of people Things are, they're just waiting, hunger and eager eyes, just wanting to see and know who Jesus is. And instead of turning the boat around and say, yep, sorry guys, this is bad. I'm going to take off with my guys. This is important. We're going to leave. We'll come back later. He sees them and has compassion and says they are like sheep without a shepherd, and begins to teach, begins to do ministry with them in some way. And what happens then is this was not planned. It's a remote place. And then all these people are showing up, and we're going to find 5,000 men later on. It's a remote place where tons of people are at. And so we're going to have some issues. And apparently there was no timekeeper saying, hey, we need to move this along. Come on here. It was a long day. And it got to a time where we haven't planned eating. There's no food trucks. We just have this. And so they're in a struggle. So as disciples, I'm again trying to put my mind to where they're at. They said, send them off. Let them go. And it could have been for them the excuse they were going to give to Jesus just so that we can break up this party and we can get some rest. But they're hungry. There's nothing we can give them. Send them away so that we can get some rest. And in my mind, at least, is what I'm thinking they're saying. And again, Jesus has something else in plans for what they're doing. If you could think about, I like to think about this, and your younger people. So remote place, large event. It's the Fire Festival, right? I mean, that's the only thing. I watched it on Netflix, right? It was a shambles, horrible time, right? If you're my generation, Tom Robertson generation, it's the Live Aid. You were probably there, weren't you? I was not. Live Aid was our generation, okay? Rick and Lynn Albrecht, it's Woodstock. You know what I mean? Talk to Rick and Lynn, they'll show you some pictures. When she's got tie-dye on, it's a really weird thing. But it's talk, and so that's the generation that you're linked. It is a festival place in remote, all right? So no other options. All right, so let's keep going. But he answered, you give them something to eat, they said to him. He said, you give them something. I said, what are you talking about? That would take more than half a year's wages. Are you going to spend that much? Are we going to spend that much and give it to him to eat? He asked, how many loaves do you have? He asked, go and see. When they found out, they said 5 and 2 fish. Let's just keep walking through this, and then we'll stop. Then Jesus directed them to have all the people sit down in groups on the green grass. So they sat down in the groups of 150s, taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and looking up to heaven, he gave thanks and broke the loaves. Then he gave them to his disciples to distribute to the people. Keep going. This is the really cool part. He also divided the 2 fish among them all. They all ate and were satisfied. And the disciples picked up 12 basketfuls of broken pieces of fish, and the number of the men who had eaten were 5,000. So what I like about that is, again, I don't completely know the theology of what Jesus knows when he knows it. I trust that he is God, and I trust that God knows everything, but I trust that he's human. So it does appear like there's times when Jesus accepts his simple humanity, and so he is saying to his disciples, how many fish and loaves do you have? And go and see. Go check it out. I think he knows something's going to happen. He's as much in tune with the Father, and he's got a little idea that we're going to do something's going to be amazing right here. That's going to be very, very important. And so they go and see, they come back with what he does, and then he starts to develop a ministry plan. Hey, we're going to meet the needs of these people. And so his plan is set in groups of 50 and in groups of 100. I can imagine that's important because it's easier than just chaos, I guess. It's an easier way for 12 people to distribute what is going to be out there. You're going to pick up stuff from the basket. So there's some ministry plan out there that Jesus wants them to do. And so what happens is he looks to the Father for a blessing. And then he starts to create. He takes a loaf. He breaks it off. He hands it, breaks it off, and hands it, and it never gets any smaller. Fish. 2 fish always remain 2 fish. Or maybe he creates new fish. Or I don't know, maybe he creates new loaves, and they just start passing it out. But he creates. And if you look at Mark, as we're talking about, as we're just going to hang out in Scripture for a little bit here, if you look at this, what Mark does, the first few chapters are Jesus setting up his ministry. The last chapters are Jesus in Jerusalem, and the middle chapters are him going from the start to Jerusalem. And this is kind of the start of those middle chapters when he's starting to reveal who he is, trying to change their ideas of what you might think the Messiah is, what you might think a religious prophet is, and I'm going to change you to think about who I really am. And who I really am is God. He created. Only God creates. Only God forgives sins. Only God does the miracles that you are seeing happen. I am God. And he's revealing that right now in his actions. And then comes Mark 8, and he reveals it in his word. Peter says, you are God, and he says, you have spoken correctly. So this is all leading us in Scripture to the point where we get that, and then from 8 on, we're going to Jerusalem where he's going to show what a loving God truly does for us as we look through all of Mark. Spoiler alert, things really happen at the end in Mark that's pretty good. So, as we look through that, again, let me move on here. You can tell somebody's over 50 when they're speaking as they use paper and not an iPad. So I'm over 50. All right. So as we think about this, let's look about what Jesus' heart is when he's talking about serving. Let's see if we can look in depth into what Jesus' heart is. And I think this is what's going to show that distortion piece of what we say. All right. So in Matthew 20 and 28, sorry, it's allergies. It's not a cold. Matthew 20:28 is the verse that a lot of us may have memorized, is that Jesus came to the world not to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. So I'm not really sure how some of us might be thinking as a distortion is that Jesus came to earth so we can serve him. And we need to serve Jesus. And that's what he came for in the first place. He's God. We need to serve him. And that's what he wants us to do. And I think if you read through the Gospels, you're not going to find that. I don't even know how you can pick that up as a distortion. In fact, he was pushing against that with the religious leaders. That was a conflict. The religious leaders wanted to be served. They had authority. They wanted to be brought up in a high area. And so he pushed against that. So if you look at the Gospels at all, I don't really believe that's a distortion. Only if maybe you're from maybe a background of a church that we did, maybe have leaders in the church that were really thought of as high positions, and then we try to protect those leaders or serve those leaders in ways that was like something like that. Maybe that's a distortion, but for my personal, what I grew up with, I don't think I saw that. Hopefully you didn't either. So I think the distortion here is a little bit more subtle as we look at it. So I think our distortion is what you're going to see from Jesus in serving is Jesus miraculously, with the snap of a finger, supernaturally, could look at that crowd right then and meet every one of their needs with just a word. You're hungry, now you're not hungry. And he created anyway. He could have done that. He can do those things if he wants. He can have whatever need we want just to be met with the word. And sometimes us, especially that are really spiritual, pray in those ways. God, I really want you to meet my need. And you think, and I think, that he is going to just put it into my heart, and it's going to change my heart and change my mind, and I won't be thinking about those things that way anymore, or I won't have that same hunger or that same thing I'm striving for. And he is going to supernaturally, boom, change it. And I think that is a slight distortion, because I think God, in this account, shows us that he changes our lives through the work of others. And for some reason, I don't completely understand why he chose to do it this way, but for some reason, he wants people's lives to be brought closer to him by the way we serve one another. And I think that's the distortion. I think the distortion is that we think God's just going to do it on his own, independent of us, but he wants us to see clearly, just like this one. I want my disciples to be involved in the work. I want them to have people, their hands to actually touch the people, to pass this out, to see my creation, to see these amazing things happen. Think about the disciples. They were exhausted. Once they were working with the people and seeing all these things happen, you think their energy changed? You think they just got crazy and just started bouncing around. I talked about Mark, but it's that, the Tigerman energy that he brings sometimes. Like he just bounces around. I'm sure they were just looking at one another. Are you doing this? Are you seeing what we're doing? This is what's going wrong, And then I'm sure it was just a change. And their life changed because they got to be involved in this amazing miracle that was happening in people's lives. And those people's lives were able to witness the same thing. They wasn't just like, hey, I got enough. I am full. I am satisfied. And we have an abundance of things left over. And they got to witness that. All right. So if this is the correct way, I believe, to see how Jesus' heart is towards serving, let's see why. Maybe I got 2 insights, and you could have more. And again, as I teach, I hope you understand, these are just things that I think God's revealing to me. And I may say something that God's going to show you something different that he wants to send you down to think about, So these are 2 things that I think show what Jesus' heart is like when he's thinking about how to serve, and when he was here thinking about those things and how he still does. And so the first thing that I think is because we as humans were created beings that need to react and spend time with one another. God made us so that it is not good, in the simple creation, it is not good for man to be alone. So we are created that we need to spend time. For most people, it's face to face. Sometimes for guys, I like to work shoulder to shoulder. We're fixing brakes, and then if we're working shoulder to shoulder, then we can have conversation. But it needs to be with someone, We need that interaction, and that's the way we're created. So if that's the way we're created, then that's also the way that we can lead others to know more and more things closely with Christ. So others then can see that's who Jesus is, because I see this person who's serving me so well, and it's a very, very clear image of who Jesus is. So others are drawn in to who Jesus is because we are personally interacting, and our actions, not just words, but our actions are also having a big effect on that. So the second thing, I think for me, this has played out huge in my life, and I've seen it as a young life leader for a bunch of years, is that if we want to have character and characteristics in our life like Jesus, then we need to serve with the heart that he has. Because serving allows the growth to happen. And I'll go longer than that. I'm not sure that any of us will continue on in a faith journey if you don't serve others in the name of Jesus. I really think you have to learn to give your life away in a way that people can see that. And for me, I was a believer really young in life, religious, church background, church family, and it was good. All the way, people cared about me so much. High school, I had, like Bible studies, friends that were believers. But then I got into college, and it was a choice I made to actually, how am I going to live this faith out? And it become less about our smaller group and less about inward looking for myself and see what I know, what theology I know, how do I believe certain things from the Word. But it became like, how can I serve that guy right down the hallway from me that has a weird smell coming out of the room, And so how can I serve that person? And then for me, when I saw some of my friends come to meet Jesus and come to an understanding of what that meant for their life, it was almost as big, if not bigger, than my own conversion, because it allowed me to live my faith in a different way. And it's like, ooh, that's what I want to cling to. That's my purposeful life. That's what God is leading me with. And so because that service entered into it, it really had a huge effect on my faith. And I think we all need to, I've seen it over and over again as a young life leader involved in ministry. If you don't see someone, if they have a struggle and they are constantly focused in an inward way, sometimes that does collapse in on itself. And it needs to get a point where you can really take that outward and care for others. And if you do that, that's what happens. All right? So let's look at, I think, what his heart looks like. So if we're deciding Jesus wants us to serve, we want to serve like Jesus. what does Jesus' heart look like? So I got 3 points. Mark comes in areas of 3, so I picked 3 points. I'm sure there's more. You may find more. But I feel like this was really clear about what Jesus' heart was as he served others. So if we wish to serve like Christ, we must have his heart. So the first thing is Jesus did not serve out of an obligation. I stumbled into this, I think, but Jesus was God. Jesus was the Son. And so he didn't say, hey, this is what God the Father expects me to do, so I got to do it. This is what I have to do to live up to my name or whatever I'm expected of. Jesus served out of compassion. He didn't look on the crowd and say, gosh, okay, I guess let's land. Let's get this over with. He looked at the crowd. They are sheep lost without a shepherd. I know I can be that shepherd. Let me jump in and do that. And so that's his ideas. It's not an obligation. If you're serving right now and you feel it's out on an obligation, I don't say get out of it, do something else. What I'm saying is talk to God about it and see if he can't change your attitude about the obligation. See if he can't have a work in your heart about why you are serving, what you're getting called to do. So that's the first thing. Second thing is he did not serve out of a ROI philosophy. He did not care what the return on investment was. Like, ooh, I got time for you because you're going to really help my ministry someday, and it's going to flourish, and it's going to expand and do amazing things. And some of that stuff's really good. I mean, if ministries are getting bigger and better and caring for more people, then that can happen. But that wasn't why he did it. He saw hurt. He saw a blind person that needed to be healed. He saw a leopard that needed to be touched. He saw disciples around him that were leading hopeless, non-fruitful, non-purposeful lives, and they were a sheep without a shepherd, and he wanted to help them. And if it gave a return on investment for the ministry, it happened, but that was not the purpose. And again, I think we can see that. We see in our own ministry, like just some things that can happen in our lives that it's easier to serve people that we think we get something in return for than necessarily like, hey, we're just doing this because Jesus has called us to do it. The last one is he did not serve out of convenience. And if you look through the Gospels, we see this already in some of the things. Jairus' daughter needed to be healed. And he comes up to him. Jesus is busy, but he comes up and he says, okay, let's go do it. And while he's on his way to do it, the woman with the bleeding interrupts him. And he doesn't just, he stops, he interacts with her. He has a purposeful, encounter with her. It was not convenient. It was mostly inconvenient for those things to happen. And so, that's something I think we look for, ways to serve that is most convenient for us. And sometimes those can be effective. Sometimes those are also what we get out of it is what we expected we were going to do. We may not receive the total amazing thing that God's going to do because we're not allowing him to enter into the space and we're not being inconvenienced. We want to find ways that we can serve even when they're not convenient. All right? So let's move to the practical. Serving in practice. Let me give you, again, some little hints that I've discovered over time, and you may have some other things that, again, the Spirit may be hitting you some ways in this. I would ask you to listen to the Spirit's nudging, and I've become better at this. Some of you guys in here have actually taught me ways to become better at listening to the Spirit, having times of quiet, having times when God can speak to you, and then the ability to listen to that and maybe ask questions in a way in prayer life to maybe clarify what he's doing, and then being open to stepping into spaces to see if that's the actual path he's wanting you to take. So being open to where he's nudging you into to see if those are opportunities to serve. And also inside of that, I would ask that you not use the phrases like, I just can't do that. I'm not built for that. Or, that is not for me. I think if you can move away from some of those phrases, then it doesn't put you in a box of this is how I'll serve, and it eliminates some ways that God really wants to do amazing things. And see you do that stuff, and just opening yourself without putting some of those phrases in allows for you not to shut down and say, okay, I'm going to use something else, God. God's going to lead you in some things if you're opening and listening, and hopefully we get better at hearing that. Don't run away from hard things. There's some stuff out there that we know going into it when we serve, it's just going to be hard. It's just like, and there's many in here in Red Door that have done the foster care. There is no way that you go into, no parent had to ever go into foster care serving and say, well, this is going to be really easy. It's going to be great. They're going to love me and it's all going to be so rosy. Going in, stepping into that space that it's hard. It's going to be tough. You are entering into things that are just really, really difficult. You're stepping into people's lives that's already built into the difficult. And because of that, we can allow God to. Now, I'm saying it, don't say things like this, but some of us aren't built for the foster care piece, but we know it's so important. But maybe, we have a couple people in our small group that are really, really important for foster care. And they are getting cared for in our group. And because of that, we have a whole group of people around them that allows them to foster. And they couldn't do that without a group of support. And so people then are choosing, God, you're nudging me, and the nudge about the foster care is to provide support for this family that's stepping into space, and there's no way they can do it on their own. There is no way they can do it on their own. And so when we do the things like foster family fun nights and things like that, those are ways that God's, for that specific ministry that Red Door is focused in on. So that's a prime example of what stepping into space might look like. The second thing that I think would be a good practice that we should look into is, I think Jesus did that, is you have a plan and you initiate that plan. So the plan is like, he said, set in 50s and 100. There's a plan, and let's initiate this with our disciples to go out and do it. So don't just hope that something happens. Don't just have a hope that God reveals something to you. Go into it knowing that God wants to do something amazing through you into others. And so initiate that plan. I had a friend that discipled me when I was in college, and he knew that for his heart, the people he wanted to serve the most was the people in his family. And he would come home from work sometimes and feel like, that's been a hard day. And I'm ready to come home and prop my feet up and relax and get a little serve myself. I want a little bit. I've been helping people all day. And he triggered his mind to get him in the right attitude that every time his hand would hit that doorknob to go into the house, it would tell him, I enter here to serve. And so make a plan, initiate something so that in your mind you can put yourself in spots where you know God is going to help you. And I'm sure, I know him well, but he had failures in serving. But God, he wanted God to show him, and that was one of the things that he did, was to do that. So as I was talking about Charlie at the beginning of the thing, and Luke, the one thing I said is that sometimes can lead to false assumptions because of this. That wasn't the case in this, actually. Sometimes there's truth in there. And I'm telling you now, I've gotten to know Charlie really well and to know Luke a little bit from other people. But Luke, the guy that I got the job for, is a stud. He is a dude, loves Jesus. When he came to the basketball game, he brought a kid with him because he wanted to show Jesus to that person. They wanted to go to the basketball game. So he's I wasn't wrong. I thought he was someone else, but he still is a very giving, caring person. I texted him, said, hey, can I use you as a story? Yes, go ahead, love that. It's great. So he's a great guy. And now I've got to know Charlie. If you pop that picture up of Charlie, I've got to know Charlie. So I don't know Charlie now because of his mom or some other thing. I know Charlie because we have a relationship now. We exchange text messages. We went to the Young Life family camp, and what I'm saying about the thing that I said to that guy about how great of a guy he is, it's even more evident to me that he's that guy. He spent a whole weekend at a Young Life camp when it's an amazing place out going on, and he spent the entire time in that room with that washing machine doing dishes all day long to serve, the families that were there for family camp, and enjoyed it. Great conversation. We stopped at Mothman on the way down, and if you've never been to Mothman, it's a special place, and Point Pleasant. So, but it's great related. So now I know Charlie. I know he loves Chipotle, and he'd prefer Wendy's over McDonald's, and there's things we had conversations about that I don't have to just guess about. I entered into a relationship with him and know him much better. So, homework. Again, I don't get to give homework anymore because I'm a retired school teacher, but now you have homework. And what I'd like to give you some homework is this. There's already things that you enter into in your life where people know you as a servant, and I'd like for you to maybe check that. Check and see what your attitude is in that. But my homework is this. Yeah, as the band's coming up, homework. See, you know, okay? Let's plan on something like this. I really think God is working on all of our hearts to reveal fresh and new ways that we can serve other people that we're not right now. So the band's going to play in a little bit. We're going to have a time of reflection. It's been really good lately when we've done some of those things. Pause for a second, have a time to think about some stuff. But what I want you to think about is ask Jesus for a nudge. Ask him to reveal something to you, that there's someone that you're connected with, some place that you can be in, that you're not currently thought of as a servant, that you're not currently giving your life away in a way that they know who Jesus is. And ask God to reveal that to you, and then start the process of the nudge leading to the next step. God, okay, I know you showed me the person, but how can I do that? You know, the person sitting next to me, you know, at work is the person you want me to serve. But what is the best way to serve that person? And then see if he doesn't reveal that to you in the next few days. And just start down that process of just opening yourself up. Maybe there's a ministry that God just thinks it would be awesome at. Come talk to an elder. We can start it. You know, if there's something that you want, talk to Dwayne. He'll help you start something. You know what I mean? There's things like that we just feel like we want God around us, that, you know, to be working around us into the people that our lives are. If you really want this to work, if you really want that nudge to have an effect, don't just have a conversation with God about it, but have a conversation with someone else. Talk to someone else about what you feel like God is nudging you in the direction, and then tell that person, hey, can you talk to me in a week and let me see how I'm doing in that? You know, there's some accountability pieces that we're going to build in. That's the practice, that's the building that we're trying to do to help us to be more and more like Jesus, okay? So let me pray here. We'll come up, we'll have communion, we'll have prayer. People will be up front in prayer, but let's just wait here for a second. See if God doesn't reveal himself in some ways that these are happening, some things that he's going to do in all of our lives. And just pause for a moment and just hang out in that spot. God, we are thankful that you reveal yourself to me. I felt like earlier, God, you were telling me that maybe I'm holding something back. Maybe I'm scared of stepping into a ministry spot. I don't exactly know where it's at, God, but I've held something back. And so I just wanted you to open that up to me. Maybe there's some areas that I just really need to let it go, trust in you, surrender completely to your call on my life, the people that you've placed me around, caring for. God, make that new and fresh today in what we're doing, calling us to that purpose.
I know who you are. The cross of salvation was only the start. Now I am chosen, free and forgiven. I have a future, and it's worth living. 'Cause I wasn't made to be dead in a grave. I was called by name, born and raised back to life again. I was made for more. So why would I make a bed in my shame when a fountain of grace is running my way? I know I am yours. I was made for more.
As we already started, like in this space of coming to receive communion, I felt like I wanted to say one thing to you guys in this is like, what a distortion we have so often of God, as Jeff was saying, that I'm just waiting for God to like serve me in some magical, miraculous way. And we miss the everyday miracles and gifts he's giving us of the people he's putting in front of us. And so if God is choosing to work through us, humans, people, it means every person presented to you is a gift of God. And it also means that you can be a gift in the life of every single person you enter into. How incredible is that? And then I was thinking about communion, and I was like, but I'm too small. I'm not enough. I don't have enough. There's not enough of me. There's not enough goodness in this. I just say, what was the story? I'm gonna take 5 loaves and 2 fishes and multiply it out and make it more than enough. And so come this morning, break the bread, dip it in the cup, and be reminded that he's multiplying whatever small thing we have into the lives of so many people this morning. So come receive him. Prayer team will be down here. Come and receive prayer and just step in this space and just be able to like receive what the Father is giving to you so that you can turn around and be able to be a gift to this whole world. Come receive.
Of salvation was only the start. Now I am chosen, free and forgiven. I have a future, and it's worth the living. 'Cause I wasn't made to be dead in a grave. I was called by name, born in back to life again. I was made for more. So why would I make a bed of my shame when a fountain of grace is running my way? I know I am yours. I was made for more. Oh, I wasn't made to be dead in a grave. I was called by name, born and raised back to life again. I was made for more. So why would I make a bed in my shame when a fountain of grace is running my way? I know I am yours. I was made for more. Sing hallelujah. You call out my name, so I'll sing out your praise. Hallelujah. You buried my past, I'm not going back. Hallelujah. You call out my name, so I'll sing out your praise. You buried my past, I'm not going back. I wasn't made to be dead in a grave. I was called by name, born and raised back to life again. I was made for more. So why would I make a bed in my shame when a fountain of grace is running my way? I know I am yours. I was made for more.
Oh man, you were. I want you to know that. Sometimes you're like, I was made for more. It's like, okay, I got to do more. No, it's where we began this morning. You're a son, you're a daughter. That's what it means to be made for more. To know that you live in that space and that place. And so I just want to offer you a blessing. And then we're going to dismiss, and just door holders, we would just ask that go out, hang out. In about 10 minutes, we'll call you back. But so just be back in here 10 minutes from now. But man, I just want to offer a blessing to you for this morning, which is may you know that God is putting gifts in front of you to show you His provision and mercy every single day in the life of another human being, in the song of a bird within your earshot, in the smell of fresh rain. And may you also know that you are being placed in the lives of other people to be a gift and a piece of His presence in this world. Be blessed. Go in peace. Love y'all.
Prayer is open in the front if anyone needs it.